You're listening to Podketeers.
Welcome to episode 267 of Podketeers. This week we dive into some of the general history of Frontierland, but before we do, we talk about Marvel's announcements at Comic-Con and the life of Disney legend Russi Taylor, who recently passed away. Russi was 75 and best known for her role as the iconic Minnie Mouse. We were very saddened to hear about her passing, and we would like to offer our deepest condolences to Russi's family and friends during this very difficult time. Some notes on this episode can be found over at podketeers.com/267. Also, if you have any questions or comments on anything that we talk about, we'd love for you to join the conversation and give us your thoughts by leaving a comment on the blog post or on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Just search for Podketeers. This episode of Podketeers has been made possible by the generosity of listeners just like you, called the FGP Squad, or our podcast, Fairy Godparents, because it's their monthly contributions via Patreon that help keep this podcast ship afloat. If you like the podcast, it's a great time to become part of the FGP Squad. By becoming a part of the FGP Squad, you'll gain access to additional content on Patreon, including our new live streams. You'll be eligible for some giveaways. So if you want more information on how you can become part of the FGP Squad, you can go to podketeers.com/FGP. And to all of the members of the FGP Squad, we just want to say thank you for your support. As of this episode, we are only a couple of weeks away from the 2019 Chalk Walk, and we want to end this year strong by earning at least $1,000 for the Children of Chalk, but we need your help to do that. As of the release of this episode, we are just about 3/4 of the way to hitting that $1,000 goal. To help out, you can either bid on any of the items that we'll be auctioning off on Instagram, or you can just make a donation to help our fundraising efforts. You can find a link to donate and a link to join our team if you'd like to join us the day of the Chalk Walk by going to teamboatwilly.com. With your help, we know that we can hit this $1,000 goal, and to everybody that's already donated and helped us either with a donation or has shared our links, thank you so much for your contributions and help. All right, let's do this podcast thing, shall we? Here is episode 267 of Podketeers.
Scaramouche, we do the fandango.
Thunderbolts of lightning, very, very frightening. Galileo, Figaro Magnifico. I'm just a poor boy, nobody loves me. You know what? Ironically enough, I didn't plan that. But you
never have to plan a Bohemian Rhapsody sing-along.
That's true.
They just happen spontaneously.
That's true. But I did kind of feel like that a little bit at the end of the auction because nobody bid on the photo print. So,
man, that stinks, man. Come on, Podketeers Nation. Where were you?
It's funny because as an artist, you always have that feeling, right, of like, man, are people gonna like what I created? And I don't think it's just general art. It's actors, musicians, like everybody always has that fear. And I remember when I first started thinking about what to auction off for Team Boat Willie and everything, I thought, you know what, this is I love this photo. And it's crazy because I think I mentioned this on the live stream that we did with the FGP Squad, that there's times that I post photos that I think, oh man, yeah, this is the greatest thing I've ever taken, and then it gets like 2 likes, and then I'll just post this like throwaway photo and it's like 794,000 likes, so I just think to myself, maybe I'm thinking about the stuff I'm posting wrong.
I don't know. It's crazy. I don't think there's a true answer here. You never know what's gonna pop.
You
true. Just don't.
It's true.
Like I've had the same experience. I think all of us have that do creative things. We put our heart and soul into something, and technically it's better than anything else, but there's something where we happen to catch lightning in a bottle that took us 5 seconds that we put up there, and people are like, oh yeah, we dig that.
Yeah.
You probably spent months on that. No, It was 5 minutes.
It happens to everybody, and it's like, yeah, you get your jitters and stuff. I mean, it could be hit or miss, and I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah. It's a humbling experience at the same time, right? Because it
Yeah.
reminds you that there's a lot of people out there that do really great work. I, on this podcast, work with two of the best artists that I've ever met in my life. So it's
Aw.
it's one of those instances that, I don't know, as much as I joked about being in the fetal position in the corner and crying over it. Was I upset? Absolutely. I'm human. I have feelings too, all right? I'm not a robot. But at the same time, I think back on the journey to where we are right now. We're 3/4 of the way to $1,000 for what we've raised for Teamboat Willie so far. And when I think back, we signed up really late. And there was so many other teams, and year after year, there's more people putting together their own little teams. And so there's only so much money that can go out to these organizations, right? And so I started to kind of rationalize this as a grown adult. And I thought to myself, well, if people that were going to donate to us or purchase these items to go to Chalk ended up donating to somebody else, who cares? It's all going to Chalk. In the end,
True.
We're all trying to help the same organization. And whether it was through us or whether it was through somebody else, the important thing is that the kids are getting help, right? And so when I put it into that mindset, I just thought, okay, it was just a bad day. When we were at the art walk, oh my God, there was months when we didn't sell anything. And then there was that one day where, like you said, Gavin, all of a sudden, like $500 worth of $2 items were sold, right? So it's insane. Like, you can never predict how things are going to go. And it was just a bad day. I still believe the print is really nice. But again, I might be biased because, again, I took it. Either way, I do want to thank everybody for their consideration as far as purchasing it. I have a couple of other ones that I'm going to try to sell, but I do want to send a very special thank you to our friends over at Dateline Nostalgia, because they were gracious enough to talk about our team.
Oh, nice.
And also a special thank you to the Disney Universe podcast. Our friends Joey and Ryan also allowed me to kind of take control of their podcast for the first few minutes and talk about Teamboat Willie. So thank you to both of them. It was a great opportunity, and I'm very, very thankful to both podcasts for allowing us to just kind of talk about the team. Like I said, currently we're just over $700. When we hit those first few milestones, just like we did before, I thought, you know what, let's raise the stakes, let's level up again, and let's try to hit that $1,000. And I'm going to keep trying, man. We have approximately 2 more weeks to try to hit that $1,000, and I'm going to do my best to do it. And special shout out also to FGP Squad member Albert, because oh my God, he rocked it. Like, he signed up, and within 2 days he had already surpassed what I had raised. So special shout out to Albert, because man, that is I love it.
That's
it was
beast
so
mode.
It's
awesome.
always good to have a straight up baller on your team.
Right? So yeah, like you
That's
said,
awesome.
Mel, straight up beast mode.
Yeah, it's a small team this year, unfortunately, but those of you that are in are killing it. So,
Well, look,
I'm
it's
proud of you guys.
it's not about the
We're
size
trying.
of the team. It's how big the impact we make is.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And look, working for a nonprofit myself, I can tell you, it sounds cliche, and to be completely honest, it really is cliche that you hear from organizations and fundraisers and all those telethons and stuff when they say every dollar counts. Every dollar. It actually does. Like I said, now working for a nonprofit myself, oh man, $20 to $25, that you get buys medical supplies for somebody. Or $50 buys an extra night in the ER for somebody that needs it, So all these things, before, I heard them all the time, but they didn't have an impact on me until I started working in the nonprofit sector. So as cliche as it's going to sound again, every dollar does count. So whether you can give $1 or $50 or $20 or $100, it doesn't matter. Just know that the money you are giving is going to a great organization, the Children's Hospital of Orange County. If you're interested in helping out our efforts to fundraise the $1,000 for chalk, you can head to teamboatwillie.com. There you will find two links, one to make a donation, or you can join the team and join us the morning of the chalk walk. You can also donate to my fundraising efforts. You can donate to Melissa's fundraising efforts. All the information is there. And if you have any questions, you can always hit us up on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. Just search for Podketeers. And yeah, we'll connect with you there. And like I said, I'm gonna try to raise that $1,000. I don't know what it's gonna take, but I'm gonna try to hit that 1,000.
We can do it.
I'm gonna try. It's going down for real.
Oh, gosh.
I don't know what that is.
You haven't seen Hotel Transylvania?
Yeah,
How
that's
dare
from
you.
Hotel
Oh, I don't
Transylvania?
remember it from that.
Yeah, he was dancing to it.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't remember that song. It's been a
Yeah.
while since I saw it.
Yeah, well, my kids watch it a lot, which is probably why it's fresher in
It's
my
good.
mind.
It's good.
Melissa,
Yes.
so glad to have you back.
I'm so happy to be back too.
It's been I love having conversations with Gavin, but the weeks that you've been away, there's a little piece of the podcast that's been missing.
No, he's sick
Aw.
of me.
It's true. How's everything going?
Going good. Everything's a lot more positive and going a lot better. Since I want to say it's been a month. Yeah, it's been a month.
Yeah.
But everything's going well, and I've actually had a few people reach out, and you guys are awesome. You guys are totally awesome. Even if it's a hi or, just a little side conversation, it really, really helped me out. So I really appreciate it. So lots of love to you guys.
Well, I'm glad to see that you're back up in crafting. I'm glad that things
Yeah.
are doing much better as well. That's always a positive to hear. And, we'll keep sending out that pixie dust and love into the universe so that things continue to progress positively.
Thank you.
The park. Did you guys head out to the park this weekend?
Sure did.
A little quick trip.
Yeah.
But
How'd it go?
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to go this weekend. Anything new happening?
Not a lot of new yet. I think there's some things in the works maybe. We talked last week about the crowd levels have kind of returned to what
yes.
would be expected. So, there's that. But I was noticing, it's interesting because we continue to see the effect that our words have on the world of Disney. And they have decided to remodel the area in front of the Sunset Theater where Mickey's PhilharMagic is.
Oh, interesting.
So it looks like they're going to be creating some sort of street-facing facade that faces the main part of Hollywoodland and lets people know, hey, there's a cool attraction in here. And because we theorize that that's part of the problem, why it's always empty when it was Muppets, after the first few weeks when it was Frozen. Even the movie previews that they've done in there have largely been pretty empty, and I think a lot of it is that it's a weird angle around that corner and people don't see it as an attraction. So it's behind walls right now from award wieners all the way around the corner to the entry of PhilharMagic.
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
I'm excited to see what they're doing. Now, it could just be an expanded eating area for award wieners because that seems to be more popular than ever. But I don't know. I'm excited to see what they're doing there. I'm hoping it's going to help draw people into PhilharMagic because that show is dope.
Which I still haven't seen.
Oh, you
gosh.
haven't?
I have not. Every time that we've
Dude,
gone
you
to
gotta
the
check
park
it
this
out.
year, we've always gone to Disneyland. So,
Man.
no joke, I'm trying to remember if this is actually true or not. I'm sure that my wife will hear this and she'll correct me if it's wrong. I don't remember anymore, but I'm almost positive that every trip I've taken to the parks this year has been without DCA. It's all been Disneyland.
Wow.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
wow, that's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if there was. Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't know
pretty
if I
embarrassed by
could
that.
do that, man. I really don't know if I could do that. I've got mad love for DCA. Like, just Cars Land alone, dude.
I know. But almost every trip that I've made has been like this crazy quick turnaround trip. I haven't had a chance to just
Yeah.
go and relax and like do the things that I've loved to do at Disneyland for so many years, right? Like
Sure.
I one of the things I've always loved to do is just sit there and people watch and just listen to the ambient sounds of whatever land I'm in. Dude, it's been years since I've had the opportunity to do that. And
Yeah.
like, I it's so weird. Like I miss Disneyland. Like I've been there so many times, and yet I feel like I haven't. Right? Like I miss Disneyland.
Well, I think a lot of it is that when you go as well, you're going to do like a vlog or you're going to film something specific or photograph something specific. You're not just strolling through and enjoying your time.
That's
you know?
very true.
Even though you enjoy doing those things, like you like doing that, but you're not just settling into a full Disneyland experience.
Right.
So that makes
Yeah.
sense.
A lot of the times too have been trips to Batu, so
Oh, that's true.
it doesn't feel like you're at Disneyland. So I totally get that part.
Yeah, we are on another planet, so that makes sense.
Speaking of Batu, I was there a couple times this weekend, and I was actually there this morning. And I now know who the two worst Millennium Falcon pilots on the planet are. I didn't catch their names, but I flew with them today as an engineer, and all I was doing was repairing the ship. We basically just crashed for 10 minutes. I mean, it was insane. It's hilarious. That attraction, if you haven't been on it, is, you know, it's dependent on 6 people kind of doing different tasks and working together to, you know, kind of fly a pretty simple mission. But it can go off the rails really quickly. And it was pretty funny. So I feel like I was part of the worst crew ever today. It was kind of hilarious.
Oh man, that's insane.
Yeah.
And I've been on the Falcon with my kids too. And they
Yeah?
can barely reach the controls, so it's
Right.
you know, it's difficult for them to do it. So
Most kids though have some gaming skills, you know, which
That's
translates. I find it's when you get like a couple in their 60s up there in the pilot seats. And they, you know, they don't realize that one of them's going left and right and one of them's going up and down. They're both just trying to steer.
Oh,
okay.
It's hilarious.
Well, I mean, it'll be interesting once we're all able to fly it together to see how well we do.
Oh yeah.
But we'll see.
Dude, I mean, or we could be the greatest thing they've ever seen, and they'll just hire us to smuggle everything.
We're gonna start doing loop-de-loops in the Falcon. And
Greatest smugglers
flying.
ever.
Hondo's gonna be like, "You're really
That would be
pirates,
amazing.
man."
That's funny.
In my worst Hondo impression ever.
That's pretty close. I like it. I got to spend a little more time with the data pad too this weekend, and get some more loot and pick up a couple of more jobs. And man, it's cool. I dig it. Like, there's so much you can do with that thing. And like I said last week, I've only scratched the surface. Like, there's just millions and millions of things you can do in there.
That's cool.
It's crazy.
Man. Yeah, it's still on my bucket list, dude. You know what I just realized that I haven't had a chance to do is, I thought about it right now when you were talking about the vlogging part of it. I haven't finished the Galaxy's Edge vlog.
Oh my gosh. I forgot about that.
I totally forgot about it too. You know what?
coming in
that's funny.
I
2020.
should work on that.
Nice.
Okay. Well, there was a couple other things that I wanted to talk about. You know, Comic-Con recently happened. There was a bunch of news from Hall H. I heard a lot of complaints about how if it wasn't for Marvel, Comic-Con kind of felt like a failure to most people. I don't necessarily fully understand that comment because I don't go to Comic-Con. But before we get into that, I did also want to speak about Russi Taylor. If you're not familiar with the name, Russi Taylor is a Disney legend and is best known for voicing Minnie Mouse for more than 30 years. In a statement that Bob Iger put out, he said, "Minnie Mouse lost her voice with the passing of Russi Taylor. For more than 30 years, Minnie and Russi worked together to entertain millions around the world, a partnership that made Minnie a global icon and Russi a Disney legend beloved by fans everywhere. We're so grateful for Russi's talent, as well as the tremendous spirit and great joy she brought to everything she did. It was a privilege to have known her and an honor to have worked with her, and we take comfort in the knowledge that her work will continue to entertain and inspire for generations to come. Russi will be sorely missed, and our hearts go out to her family and friends, along with our deepest condolences." And, you know, when you think back on the stories that people, you know, leave behind when something like this happens, you know, Russi, as a little girl, you know, she had told a story once about how she had gone to Disneyland, and they were getting off of the Mark Twain riverboat. And over, you know, to the side, they saw Walt Disney sitting on a bench, and they walked over, they introduced themselves, and they shared some popcorn with him. And at some point, Walt asked her, you know, "Well, what do you want to do when you grow up?" And her answer was, "Well, I want to work for you." You know, and all those years later, you know, she did. She was Minnie Mouse.
Wow.
And,
that's cool.
You know, she auditioned to be Minnie Mouse in 1986, and there was about 200 other people that were auditioning for the role of Minnie at the time. And I mean, you know, she leaves behind this huge legacy because she's best known for Minnie, but she did so many other voices, you know, like within the Disney lexicon and outside. You know, she was Huey, Dewey, Louie, and Webby. She was Martin, Sherry, Terry, and Ooter on The Simpsons. She was the original voice of Strawberry Shortcake in the early 80s. She was Pebbles Flintstone, the fairy godmother in Cinderella 2 and 3. So, I mean, those are just like some of the better known parts that she played. I mean, she has an amazing resume of voices that she did throughout her career. The craziest thing I think about her life is that, you know, at the time that she got this role as Minnie Mouse, she met Wayne Allwine, who was the voice of Mickey Mouse. He had been voicing Mickey since 1977, and after they started working together as Mickey and Minnie on set, they kind of fell in love in real life, and they were married in 1981. So they were basically like real life partners on screen and off. And I thought that like that story is just one of the cutest things I've ever heard. Right? Like
that's pretty awesome.
Mickey and Minnie, like for real. And until Wayne's passing in 2009, she continued playing Minnie. I mean, in all the roles that we hear Minnie, including all the new attractions that are coming to the parks, she still voices Minnie. Obviously now, Brett Iwan is the voice of Mickey Mouse. He had kind of started understudying Wayne at the time before he had passed on. But yeah, I mean, she's leaving behind this amazing legacy. You know, every story that I've heard about her, everybody talks about how she was just the sweetest person to talk to and to work with. And there was this interesting story that I read on Twitter from people that had worked with her that she had the sweetness of Minnie Mouse, but, you know, there was this thing that she would do whenever she would walk into a room and she saw that, like, a man had, like, a beard. She would kind of, like, pet the beard like it was, like, a pet, like a little dog or something. But it wasn't, like, condescending. It was this, like, cute, like, aw, I'm working with you today, thank you type situation, right? Aww. And it was just, like, the cutest thing. And I was like, I want one of those, please.
Why not me?
So yeah, I mean, it's
awesome.
What a tremendous legacy, you know?
Yeah. It's funny when you mentioned her list of characters, I suddenly could hear Martin from The Simpsons and Minnie, and you can kind of hear those similar tones in there. And man, that's incredible. Like the breadth of characters that she was able to do is is remarkable. And yes, that is the cutest like Disney couple story ever. It's ridiculous.
It is.
But I was wondering, like, okay, so did she voice, or did she voice the new Minnie Mouse in the new Minnie Mouse shorts?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I feel like those voices sound different than when we hear Mickey and Minnie in the park, and so like they do give them a different slant. They don't have separate voice actors for those.
I think it depends on the project, because Mickey Mouse has had 12 different people voice him since Walt Disney.
Right.
So 11 others since Walt. The current 2 voice actors that do Mickey are Brett Iwan and Chris Diamantopoulos. So Chris does all the new Mickey Mouse shorts, and he does like I think he does some video games and some other stuff, but Brett is primarily the voice that you hear on Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, all the
like
celebrations. Traditional Mickey. He's before that, it was Wayne that did all the traditional Mickey stuff. So Chris does have a different slant to Mickey, but Russi still did the voice for Minnie. So the composer for some of the Mickey Mouse shorts, his name is Christopher Willis. He had put up a song that he had worked on and he had mixed for one of the Mickey Mouse shorts, and there was this song in the episode called Carried Away where Russi was singing, but he put it up with without the Foley, right, with all the explosions and all the other stuff that's happening, and it's just a beautiful piece. You know, you listen to it, I love it. Like I've heard it several times. I'm going to try to put it in the blog post for the episode. Hopefully it doesn't get taken down. He's kind of an official composer for the Mickey Mouse shorts, so I don't think they'll take it down. But who knows, right? I mean, it's a Disney piece, so I don't know. Podketeers.com/267 if you guys want to check that out. And let us know. Listen to it, and then let us know what you guys think about it. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
That's awesome. It's interesting. I was hanging out with our buddy Josh from Animation Station podcast this weekend, and we were in the parking structure, and we were kind of comparing and contrasting Pixar Pals and Mickey and Friends, and he kind of suggested a really cool idea, because we were talking about how they could give it kind of a facelift and, kind of bring it up to par with Pixar Pals. And, he suggested a really simple idea of changing all of the characters in Mickey and Friends to the new versions of them from those shorts that look really cool and modern with bright, beautiful, bold colors. Because the color palette, it's so 1997 when it opened, something like that. It was like in the late 90s when it opened. And they look so bad. Like Minnie's pink is like this Pepto-Bismol pink. Like, come on, this is Minnie. She's the freaking queen of the kingdom. Yeah. She needs to be popping, And like, I don't know. I feel like the new designs of those characters are so fun and cool and in their own way timeless. Like, I think they will be loved for a long time. And I thought that was a simple thing that they could do to help spruce up Mickey and Friends. And I thought that was a cool idea.
Yeah, I like it.
It's
so funny. You said right now that you think they're timeless, that people like them. And it's so funny to me how so many people are against the new Mickey shorts. They don't like them. They're saying that it's so un-Mickey. But when you think back to the original Mickey shorts, Mickey was a troublemaker.
They're much more in keeping with the old black and white ones. Like, people don't realize, they fail to recognize that Mickey's had straight up personality changes throughout the years. Like, they've cleaned him up, or they've, sterilized him in certain ways. And he's gone through some major iterative changes along the way. And, people didn't like those changes when they happened back then either. But that's the nature of this. Walt wanted this to happen. He wanted everything to have an evolution and to grow and to expand and change and not stay the same. That was like, staying the same was death to Walt. Like, he could not stay the same. So, I think people like fail to recognize that that's the vision that this company has, and that's what they try and maintain. And if they don't like the new Mickey shirts, they're kind of dumb, because they're awesome.
Well, it does keep in tune with that original Mickey Mouse, the concept just of all of them, right? With just not just with Mickey, but with also Donald and Goofy.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy how people just kind of fight the new Mickey Mouse shorts, but I love them. I don't know, they remind me of my childhood for some reason. Just
they're so cool. I think they're fantastic. Yeah. I love their animation style and their color palette and their character design and their music. They're practically perfect in every way.
Oh, are they? Mm-hmm. With or without a spoonful of sugar?
Yeah, with or without. Either way, they're perfect.
Okay, well, before we get into the main topic of this episode, Gavin's going to be talking about Frontierland. And before we talk about Comic-Con, which is kind of what led us into our last conversation, I want to quickly remind you that this episode of Podketeers is brought to you by a fantastic group of folks called the FGP Squad, our podcast Fairy Godparents. And if you would like a little more information on how you can become a part of the FGP Squad, you can head over to podketeers.com/FGP. There you'll find a little bit of information about the FGP Squad, a link to sign up, and a list of some of our Fairy Godparents. As part of the FGP Squad, you have the opportunity to be a part of some of our giveaways and the exclusive Fairy Godparent live streams that we've started doing. The next one is coming up very soon. Unfortunately, we hit the end of July and we didn't get a chance to do it with all of our schedules just kind of scattered. But it's coming. We're doing it. And I'm happy because I'm kind of excited about testing out the new animations and the new transitions and all that stuff. So, woo! I'm happy about it. So that's coming up. Nice. So yeah, more information can be found on podketeers.com/FGP. And of course, as always, to all of the members of the FGP Squad, we just want to thank you for helping us keep the lights on every week because we heart you. And I think you heart us back. So it's a mutual hearting. That's weird. I shouldn't say that.
Hearts all around.
Hearts all around. Let's leave it at that.
It was a drive-by hearting.
Drive-by hearting. All right, let's move on before this gets even more weird. Okay, so Comic-Con. A lot of stuff was happening. Again, I mentioned earlier that some people were saying that it felt that Comic-Con was kind of a fail if it wasn't for the Hall H presentation from Marvel. Really weird to me because, I mean, I watched The Good Place panel, and even though it's the last season of The Good Place, I enjoyed it because I love that show. Am I sad that it's leaving? Yeah, because I like it. But Marvel, that's what we're talking about right now, not The Good Place.
Wait. There was a Good Place panel at Comic-Con?
Yeah, because it's the last season.
Do they not have an actual comic theme anymore? Is it just like anything goes at Comic-Con?
Pretty much. That's why next year Podketeers are having a panel.
Heck yeah.
You heard it here first.
I mean, it's held at the auditorium of the Radisson, like several blocks down. But, oh, man, we're having one. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I've heard from a lot of people that, like, it kind of, there's this general sense that Comic-Con has kind of gotten too big and kind of lost its way, and a lot of people are not as interested in it anymore. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out over the next few years.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It has developed a name for itself as the place where new movies, new television shows tend to break now. The news from studios goes out through Comic-Con. And so it has, I think, lost that charm a little bit of just the comic books and where it all kind of started. From what I've heard, people have told me that they like to go to WonderCon because WonderCon tends to feel more like when Comic-Con was first starting. And yeah, I'm hoping that I don't start feeling like that about D23, right? Because we do want D23 to grow, and there are growing pains with these types of events. And D23, the last time that we went versus those first couple of expos, it's a huge difference. There's been so many advancements. Sure. It's so much better. It's just easier all around. And this year they're doing the pre-registration. You know, you're going to be able to sign up for all of those presentations, except me on Saturday. I'm not going to be able to go to the Haunted Mansion panel because I'm not going to be there on Saturday, but I'm not whining about it. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just saying. Anyhow, So yeah, it's getting bigger and bigger, which is great. I just hope that it doesn't get to the levels of what Comic-Con is, where people begin to think like, this is too much. Don't want to do this anymore. And so that's when we'll be like, well, we're announcing Podketeers Con.
Nice.
Or unless we present at the next D23 Expo. Who knows? Yeah, they'll be like, guys, we've listened to the playlist on YouTube of all your Armchair Imagineering episodes, and we're just thinking, come do a panel at D23 and let's do a live Armchair Imagineering of everything in the parks. Let's just, it'll just be fun.
Bro.
Right?
That would be fun.
I just hope that D23 Expo stays an every other year event. If they decided to do it every year, that would be too much, I think.
I think so too. So Marvel. This year, we got a lot of announcements in Hall H that we kind of already knew. They announced a specific timeline for a lot of the properties that are going to be a part of Phase 4. Obviously, Spider-Man Far From Home was the end of Phase 3, which ended the Infinity Saga after Endgame. And so it looks like in Phase 4, the first film that's going to be coming is Black Widow in May of 2020. Eternals has a date of November 2020. WandaVision, Loki, and Hawkeye are all coming to Disney Plus in spring of 2021, and Hawkeye's coming in the fall of 2021. We're also going to get The Falcon and the Soldier and the Winter Soldier fall 2020. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is coming February of 2020. And just side note on Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, I know we've talked about this before, that I didn't know who Shang-Chi was. But when I heard the announcement that Simu Liu was getting the part of Shang-Chi, I was excited, because Simu plays one of my favorite characters on Kim's Convenience on Netflix, and I just like him as an actor. I think he's funny, and I think he's gonna be good in this role, so I just want to throw that out there. What else are we getting? Oh, Doctor Strange.
I feel totally out of touch because I don't know any of those things you just mentioned.
Oh,
I'm on the same page with Kevin. I'm like,
watch
Kim's I'm happy for you.
Watch it on Netflix.
Okay.
I like it.
Cool.
I'm actually hoping that they keep putting out episodes, because I've gone through all of them at least twice, and I just love that show. The dad's like my favorite character on there. So we're getting Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, because, he took Mysterio. Oh, I don't want to spoil Spider-Man. So anyway, we're getting a Doctor Strange movie in May of 2021. We're getting a series called What If in the summer of 2021, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. And then we're getting the craziest Thor movie with the title that seems like it's straight out of the 70s, and he needs like a crazy mustache, Thor Love and Thunder, in November of 2021.
I thought maybe it was going to be Thor Discotheque or something.
It might as well be, dude, with that title. It's interesting. Among all of the announcements of what was coming, there was no mention of Black Panther, Guardians of the Galaxy. Obviously now that they own the Fox properties, Kevin Feige even said, look, we didn't have a chance to talk about Fantastic Four or the mutants that are coming. I like the fact that they're kind of tying everything into the current comic books, because Thor Love and Thunder will feature a female Thor, and it will be played by Natalie Portman. I don't exactly know how they're going to do it in the film, or if there's going to be a direct tie-in, because they do tend to change some of that stuff. But I know that in the comics, Jane Foster is the name of the character. She's essentially dying. And so I don't know if that's the route that they're going to take with this one, but they might, considering that they're doing all these tie-ins. So it'll be kind of interesting. The What If series is a cool concept where they have the Watcher. And so it's narrated in a sense where they're asking the question, what if this character was in this other universe? And they did. And so it's all these stories from like alternate universes for like, who knows, we could have had like an evil Captain America, and it's going to play like all these what if roles. So that one I think is one of the ones I'm most excited about. That's going to be summer of 2021, so it's a couple years away. But one of the biggest announcements that they had towards the end of the presentation was when they were bringing everybody on stage. You know, they have these hats. They have the show or the film that they're going to be working on. And at the end, when Kevin Feige was saying, like, oh, you know, we haven't talked about Fantastic Four coming. We haven't talked about this or Captain Marvel 2. He said, oh, there's one more thing. He pulled a Steve Jobs, right? He's like, oh, there's one more thing. I want to bring somebody else on stage. And so he says, ladies and gentlemen, Mahershala Ali. And Mahershala Ali, you know, the last time that I saw him in anything was in House of Cards. And he's a fantastic actor. And I think he's even in one of the Marvel shows on the CW. I don't know if it was Daredevil or Arrow, but I think he's on one of those, like, side Marvel shows. I'll look it up. But I remember him from House of Cards. That's where I knew him from. So he comes out, and Kevin Feige's all like, oh, you seem to have your own hat. What's on your hat? And so he puts it on, and it says Blade, right? And they put a big Blade logo up on the screen behind him. I like the fact that they're bringing in somebody new instead of Wesley Snipes. Outside of Blade trilogy, I like the Blade movies. I thought the third one was not as good as the first two. But I do like the fact that they're bringing somebody else in because I want to say Wesley Snipes is in his mid-50s at this point. You know, and
oh, at least.
Yeah, and Mahershala Ali is in his 40s-ish. If the MCU has taught us anything, is that most of these characters are in for the long haul. You know, unless they get War Machine replaced. But most of the characters are in for the long haul. So it's just weird to me that a lot of the stuff that was announced is stuff we already knew. What we got were dates and confirmation of who was playing what characters, essentially. But it still leads me to wonder, what are they going to announce at D23?
Right.
That was my question.
So that's got to be where they're going to talk about Guardians and what was the other one you said they left out?
Oh, Fantastic Four. They left out the X-Men.
Oh, yeah, Black Panther.
And Black Panther 2 is supposed to be a pretty big one, too, because Black Panther 2 is rumored to be a film where T'Challa passes the role of the Black Panther to Shuri, and she becomes the new Black Panther.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Back to Thor. I thought Natalie Portman basically said, I'm not into this whole superhero gig, and like that's why she checked out of this series originally.
Yeah.
Was she just not happy not being the star, or what's the deal? How did they get her back? Do you know?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I had the same question because I thought she was completely done with it. It could have a lot to do with the fact that Taika Waititi has such a good track record with the Thor films that she thinks that she'll be able to work really well with him and she'll have a really good role in this one. But it could also be that she's playing the lead role now.
Interesting. So the next Thor film we get is going to have her as Thor, not Chris Hemsworth. Is that what's happening?
So if it goes parallel with the comic book series, we will still see Thor as Thor, and he will always be Thor because he's Thor, but somehow he'll pass on that power to her, you know, to prevent her from dying or something, and then she'll continue the mantle of Thor. Because I mean, is it okay to spoil Endgame at this point? Because
of course it is.
Yes.
I mean, you don't
spoil it.
Don't care.
I'm the last person on the planet that didn't see it, and I don't care.
The point is that Thor gave up his throne, right? So at this point, he's not even leading New Asgard, and so he's just the dude now. And the rumor was that he was going to go off and there was going to be the Asgardians of the Galaxy. Like there was a comic book about it where Thor was going around with the Guardians. But that doesn't look like it's going to be the case anymore. And I kind of like that because I like keeping the Guardians as pure as possible before there's a huge shift in the characters, right? Because it happens. There's even new Guardians now. But Yeah, it is interesting that Natalie Portman came back for this. I would love to hear the story as to why, but I haven't read anything or watched anything or heard anything as to what convinced her to take the role again.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. Once upon a time, I was basically in love with Natalie Portman.
I think a lot of us were.
Right, yeah.
Not me.
But what they've turned that Thor franchise into is so, like, witty and charismatic, and, like, there's so much coolness to it. I can't see her doing any of that, you know? Like, when I think back on what she's done, like, to me, like, I don't know. I don't know if she's got that in her wheelhouse. I hope she does, because I love the Thor franchise. I don't know.
So I'm glad you said that, because I completely disagree with you on this.
Really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. And let me tell you why I disagree with you. 3 letters. SNL.
I don't know if I saw her on SNL.
Okay, so she's been on SNL several times. And the first time
she does the
rap battle,
raps.
or the Natalie raps.
Okay.
Oh!
That's true. She does have that edge.
I do think she can pull it off.
That's true. I forgot about that
and
stuff.
Because of who's directing the Thor films, I think it will come out in her. I think that this film is just going to be as witty and as good as Ragnarok was.
Okay. Yeah,
Nice.
Honestly, I had forgotten about all of that stuff. So, yeah. All right, cool. Maybe this will be the resurgence of Natalie.
Oh, man. I'm hearing the raps in my head now. That's not like... Yeah. Anywho, Google them in case you're interested.
Not appropriate for
this podcast. So, ask your parents if you can Google it, kids.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's a lot of the stuff that's coming in Phase 4 from Marvel. Obviously, we're going to get a lot more information at D23, and I'm looking forward to it. It looks like there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff that's coming. And like I said, that What If series, oh, man. Possibly the thing that I like the most, because I feel like it's going to take us on all these adventures and spin off all these questions that maybe a lot of us as fans have thought about throughout watching all of the films, in the MCU. So, yay, bring it on. I'm so in. I'm in. Ugh.
That is a crap ton of films,
It is.
man. That is so many. I know it's only over the next couple years.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. Wow. Phase 4 is going to be very compressed, and it's going to have a lot of content, especially with all the stuff that's going up on Disney Plus. So it does feel like right now I feel like we're in this lull for at least a year where we're not getting superhero stuff with the end of Endgame and Far From Home. But then it just looks like we're going to get slammed with superhero stuff. So I hope that we don't feel the superhero burnout again, like most Star Wars fans have said they felt the Star Wars burnout with all the stuff that came out.
It almost feels like even with Episode 9 coming this winter, that's almost too soon, but it's tradition.
Yeah.
So they like to do that Christmas release for Star Wars. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out and see if they can break their Infinity War record or Endgame War. Which one broke? Endgame. Endgame record. Yeah. That'll be interesting.
By the way, it was officially announced. I think we talked about this in a previous episode where we were talking about how Hulu and Disney Plus would play well together. It was officially announced that Disney Plus will be an add-on to Hulu for a discounted price. So the price wasn't official, like there wasn't an announcement. I'm pretty sure that we'll get that at D23, but it was announced that Disney Plus will be an add-on for Hulu or vice versa if you sign up for that and want Hulu as part of the package. So
nice.
I'm glad to hear that they're bundling it, and I'm glad to hear that it's going to be at a discounted rate if you sign up for multiple services. So yay, good on you, Disney. I like that.
Very cool.
Okay, I think it's time to officially jump into our main topic for this week. We're going to be talking about Frontierland. Gavin, are you ready to go with this?
Let's saddle up, y'all.
Nice. All right, well, before we jump into that topic, I do want to remind you that if you purchase anything on Amazon, a really great way to help out the podcast is by starting that purchase by going to podketeers.com/Amazon, clicking on the big Amazon button that you see, because it'll take you to Amazon using our special link, and anything that you buy may earn us a small commission from Amazon. So to everybody that's taking the time to do that, thank you so much for using our link, podketeers.com/Amazon, before your next purchase. All right. Let's do this.
Let's. All right, kids. Let's mosey on over to Frontierland.
It's time for the wildest ride in the wilderness.
Of course it is. It's always time for that. So, today we're going to be talking a little bit about Frontierland and the story of that great and sprawling land we all know and love. So, Frontierland is what I would say is arguably the most quintessentially American land in Walt's Magic Kingdom. It is inspired by the frontiers of the sprawling United States from the Mississippi River all the way to the coast of California. It represents the westward expansion of the population of our newly formed country from the late 1700s to the late 1800s, thus its appropriate placement on the western side of the park. It gives us glimpses of the deserts, prairies, rivers, and mountains that make up the vast areas that cross 3 time zones of our country. It is the Wild West, the California Gold Rush, the national parks, and the forts and stores where trappers and traders swapped goods with farmers and merchants. It is the OK Corral, Davy Crockett, and the Oregon Trail. In other words, it's epic.
Dude, I didn't realize that the story spanned 3 time zones.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. There's so much mythology and legend and history in the American West that at the original size of Frontierland, which was 33 acres, it still only scratched the surface of what could be told there. I'm going to provide a little context of this land for, to kind of give the picture of what was going on in the world of media in the 50s. Because I don't think that everybody instinctively would create this type of era or area in a modern day amusement park. But in the 1950s, Westerns were all the rage. And, there was this major national craze for basically cowboys and Indians in the 1950s. So, like on TV, some of the top shows were Gunsmoke, The Lone Ranger, Bonanza, The Rifleman, and Wagon Train. They were consistently among the most popular shows of that decade. And actually in 1958, 8 of the top 10 TV shows were Westerns. Yeah. So it was a national craze that was happening at that time. Some of the more popular and iconic movies of that decade were also Westerns. Some of my favorites are Giant, the movie Shane, and Old Yeller from Disney.
Old Yeller?
Yeah.
Old Yeller, come back, Yeller.
Exactly. Get out your tissues for that one, kids, if you haven't seen it. And of course, it affected music, the popular music charts, with a little song that everybody knows called The Ballad of Davy Crockett, which actually came from a series of short films that Disney produced. And that song was actually recorded by 4 separate artists in 1954. All 4 of them reached the top 10 in the U.S., with one reaching the number 1 spot for a month. And all 4 of them reached the top 20 in England.
Wow.
So Westerns were a thing, y'all. They were big.
Wow.
And of course, Disney was part of that influence and influenced by it. So when Walt was concepting the park, of course, one of the things that would be prominently in his mind is a Western area. He wanted his park to, be about dreams, but also about the dreams of the past. And a lot of the American dreams of the past were the westward expansion. So that's what Frontierland is. When the land opened, and for its first couple of decades, the attractions there were centered around modes of transport, travel, and exploration. On land were mule trains, stagecoaches, Conestoga wagons, and a mine train. On water were canoes, rafts, keelboats, a sailing ship, and a large paddle wheeler. It was a bustling place, to say the least. In addition to these were also a lively saloon called the Golden Horseshoe, a shooting gallery, a miniature horse corral, and a river island with a wilderness fort and caves for exploring. Basically, there was endless things to do in this land. Like, so many things, because it was big and it was full. In some ways, it was kind of the opposite of Tomorrowland in those first few years, which was large itself, but mostly empty. So they did a good job with Frontierland right out of the gun. Speaking of guns, an interesting fact, the original shooting gallery in Frontierland, which was actually the second shooting gallery after the Main Street shooting gallery, used real lead pellets in their guns. And required that the targets and scenery be painstakingly repainted nightly.
Wow.
Yeah, imagine the cost of doing that today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, thanks infrared technology.
Right?
Yeah, so they ended that after a while, but originally, yeah, you were basically shooting real guns.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy, right?
I think, honestly, I
Yeah.
think that if it was to the point where they had to repaint it, they would have said, yeah, let's find something else to put there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. Frontierland was a sprawling place with seemingly endless things to do and see. But the novelty of experiencing real-world historical transportation as a Disneyland attraction eventually wore off. Disneyland had brought many other attractions to the parks in its first 2 decades that changed the level of expectation guests had when they walked through the gates. For example, in Fantasyland, they could careen down the Matterhorn Mountain. In Tomorrowland, they could explore the sea in a submarine. And Frontier called out for such an attraction, too. The first step in this direction was the legendary Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland. Sniff, sniff from Hazen, of course. I'm not going to go into detail on this one because next week Hazen's going to tell us the tale of that legendary attraction.
And I'm going to try to do it without crying.
but suffice it to say, it is probably the attraction that most of us today wish we could go back in time and experience.
Totally.
So I'm totally pumped for next week when we can kind of get in our imaginary time machine and try and go back to that attraction. Eventually, the evolution of attractions continued, and even the mine train was removed for something more thrilling. Thus the sniff sniff from Hazen. So in the 1970s, amusement parks around the world were implementing new, more extreme roller coaster type thrills. Thanks in large part to the innovative track design of the Matterhorn mountain bobsleds in 1957, ride engineers began pushing that technology to new heights, new angles, and new curves. Disney found that many guests began to find their parks a bit blasé because of this. So they decided to add some thrills to both Tomorrowland and Frontierland. The first, of course, was Space Mountain in 1977. Then, in 1979, led by a young star in Imagineering, Tony Baxter, Disneyland created Big Thunder Mountain Railroad.
Led by the Stash.
Led by the Stash.
That's right.
Perfect. The Stash. Tony the Stash
That's
Baxter.
right.
And of course, we all know and love it as the wildest ride in the wilderness.
Hold on to your hats and glasses.
It's one of the most well-known spiels in the park, I think.
Yeah, outside of the mansion, right? It's
Yeah,
probably
the
the one that gets
mansion.
quoted
Yeah.
the most.
Probably the mansion, wildest ride in the
Pirates.
wilderness, pirates, some of the pirate stuff. It's up
Yeah.
there. It's definitely iconic. Big Thunder was an instant success. It has become a true icon of Disney parks, and it exists in most of the Disney parks around the world. The Disneyland version is inspired by Bryce Canyon in my home state of Utah.
Nice.
If you don't know what Bryce Canyon is, it's one of our national parks. Google images of it. You will be blown away. It's gorgeous. Very little has changed about the attraction since 1979 because of the brilliance of the track design and incredible level of theming. It's really hard for me to consider this anything but a top 5 Disney attraction. The thrills that you get from it, the theming, just the excitement of what you experience on that attraction delivers every time.
Right.
I think I rode it 3 times this weekend, and I can't imagine ever getting tired of it. And of course, who doesn't love that dynamite chewing goat?
Right?
Yeah.
So a couple years back, they actually did a refurbishment of this attraction where they replaced all of the track. So the track is a little smoother and a little faster now. Also, it's a little safer because they have a newly designed braking and ride management system that they installed, which, makes this attraction just all the more enjoyable because you don't have to worry about anything. And then, of course, they also added new effects to the final lift hill where you enter the mine and see some exploding barrels of dynamite. It's kind of awesome. But other than that attraction is more or less the way it has always been. And it's been thrilling guests for 40 years now, 42 years. And it's going strong. I can't imagine them ever really getting to a point where they would redo Frontierland again and replace that. You know, like I fully believe it's there to stay. So I want to talk a little bit more about the land in general. I think for some people, the theming can be a little underwhelming. And I think this is due to kind of the really authentic look of much of Frontierland. But there are lots of great details in this part of the park. From like the wooden sidewalks to the post and rail fences. They kind of give you that ambiance, the fort entrance, the kind of the stockade fort entrance. They all have visual cues that put you kind of in this western town. If you look down as you walk around, you will see hoof tracks and boot tracks in the rough pavement areas, which is a neat little touch. I love that. Another interesting fact is when you enter Frontierland from the hub, about 40 feet in, you'll see a flagpole, and there's a plaque there. And at the entrance of most lands at the park, there's a plaque, and it will contain an excerpt of the original dedication that Walt spoke on opening day. However, in Frontierland, you won't see that. You will see a plaque donated to Walt by the American Humane Association, which I thought was really interesting. But I did want to read the actual dedication that Walt spoke. So on July 17, 1955, Walt dedicated it by saying, "Frontierland, it is here that we experience the story of our country's past. The color, romance, and drama of frontier America as it developed from wilderness trails to roads, riverboats, railroads, and civilization. A tribute to the faith, courage, and ingenuity of our hardy pioneers who blazed the trails and made this progress possible." I think it's a nice encapsulation of what this land is. Yeah. Also, another little fun fact, which I'm sure Hazen will tell us a little more about next week, is that when you're in the queue for Big Thunder, the little town that kind of overlooks the queue is called Rainbow Ridge, and that was basically salvaged from the Nature's Wonderland area. And there are some other hints and clues that remain from that attraction that I'm sure we'll hear more about as well. But keep a keen eye out when you're in Frontierland. There's history to be seen, even Disney history. One of my favorite new elements of Frontierland is actually something that a lot of people, I think, still haven't seen, and that is the new series of waterfalls that have been added to the Rivers of America. I love that feature, and you can experience it on the train, on the Mark Twain, or any of the boats on the river, actually. And it's this long, curved series of waterfalls, which I think are very beautiful. It's a neat little feature that they've added. gave the train the first opportunity to make a left-hand turn. So I love the new waterfalls that they added back there. But I think my favorite detail of all of Frontierland is actually a seasonal detail, because it is the home in September and October of the officially dedicated Ray Bradbury's Halloween tree. And as a huge fan of Ray Bradbury, I've always loved his work, and I love that he has a connection to Disney, and the fact that they were able to dedicate that with him present before he passed away was, to me, a very touching, moving thing that happened. And I always spend time underneath the Halloween tree every fall at Disneyland. So if you're not aware of what that is, if you go this fall, it's the tree right outside of the shops on the left-hand side of Frontierland. That's always filled with orange lights and little pumpkin lights, and there'll be a little plaque there that you can read. But that's Ray Bradbury's Halloween tree. It's my favorite little spot.
I love it.
So that's Frontierland, kids. I hope you love Frontierland as much as I do. It's one of my favorites, and it actually holds a lot of nostalgia for me, because I remember very clearly as a kid going to Tom Sawyer Island and losing my mind with how amazing it was to be able to explore an island filled with caves and a fort and little barrel bridges. So if you've never been over there, which I feel like a lot of people haven't been to Tom Sawyer Island, check it out. It's super
That's
cool.
called Pirate's Lair now, sir.
Yeah, it's always Tom Sawyer Island to me. But yes, it is called Pirate's Lair.
That's like one of the best quiet spots.
Sure.
At Disneyland.
Sure.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah.
Just to go there, and you can actually see the waterfalls. It's just to see everything there from that little angle.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. It's a cool idea that really only exists at Disneyland and Magic Kingdom and Disney World.
I think Paris.
I don't think there's anything.
I think Paris has.
Does Paris
has a Big Thunder Mountain. It's connected to the story of Phantom Manor. So.
Right. But I don't think they've got a
Duh.
Tom Sawyer Island kind of thing, right?
You know what? I don't think so. I'd have to go back and research. But off the top of my head, I don't think. I think they have an island on the waterfront, but I don't think that it's accessible the way that Tom Sawyer Island or Pirate's Lair is.
Yeah.
I'll have to research it. I don't know, to be honest with you. Mostly when I think about Paris, I'm thinking about Phantom Manor. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the last detail that I think that they have added recently that I think is really good is actually the area in Big Thunder Trail where they have two entrances to Galaxy's Edge. And if you don't know that Galaxy's Edge is back there, you will never know. They have done such a great job of maintaining theming for those entrances, not putting up big like Star Wars signs and stuff. I love it. I love those transitions from Galaxy's Edge to Frontierland and back, because they took the time and space to make them really long. They added some curvature to those pathways, so you're never able to stand in one land and look out to the other land. And I just love it. I think they added some great new rock work, some amazing landscaping, some prop work, like that stagecoach that's sitting there like crashed in the one entry is really good. I love it. So I really feel like right now, like Frontierland is one of the most complete, like perfect lands that they really don't need to do much to. I know we're going to slice and dice it in a couple weeks when we Armchair Imagineer, but I really feel like right now Frontierland is so perfect. I know that a lot of people miss the Big Thunder Ranch, and there are other things that people miss from the past. I personally would love the keel boats to come back because I thought they were awesome. But Frontierland, man, it's so beautiful. And I just hope people can love and appreciate it because it's a work of art.
I agree. I mean, there's we talk about all the lands and how sometimes they feel disconnected from themselves. Tomorrowland is obviously the most glaring of those.
Yeah.
But the footprint itself compared to the other lands is kind of small because everything else is pathways, essentially, to other stuff. But you're right. The transition from Frontierland to Galaxy's Edge is so smooth that from what I've seen in my tours of Magic Kingdom on the YouTubes, it feels like how Magic Kingdom has a way of transitioning you from land to land without it feeling like you're going from land to land. A lot of things are a lot more blocked off from what I've seen, and it doesn't make you feel like, oh, I'm in Tomorrowland, but hey, look, there's that thing from Adventureland, or I'm in Adventureland, and hey, look, there's this Matterhorn Mountain across from me. So it does a better job of masking the effects of where you're supposed to be, and I really like that. I wish there was a little bit more of it going on with the other parks, but I think that's part of what makes Disneyland and the hub so magical, that you stand in the middle and you can see all these different entrances to all these different places in your imagination, and no matter where you walk, you have a completely different experience. So as much as I don't like the fact that it's not masked, I love the fact that it isn't. So I don't know. It's a catch-22, man. It's a catch-22.
I get it. Yep.
The Bertha May, one of the boats, the Gully Wumper, obviously is back on the water. It's one of the props that's on the Rivers of America. I think the Bertha May, who owned it, or who, I don't know if he still does after what happened, but Richard Kraft was the owner of the Bertha May for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
If I venture to guess now, John Stamos probably owns it.
Probably.
Yeah, he owns half of Disneyland already. Yeah, that's awesome, dude. I love that. There was so many connections to the Wild West when it first opened. Obviously, we had the Indian village over towards where the mansion was, and there was an authentic Indian tribe there, and you would hear stories, you would hear presentations from the Native American tribes in the area. We did lose a lot of that because the construction of New Orleans Square began to happen, and so they had to kind of demo all of that and compress it. But yeah, I mean the
and then Bear Country too.
Yeah,
it kind of was that whole side of the park basically originally.
Yeah, it was basically a picnic ground on that side. So
yeah, in a lot of ways that's true.
But yeah, I mean there's so much magic, especially in the mine train, and let's just fast forward to next week.
Done. We're
We're
there.
Okay, so let me tell you about Nature's Wonderland, kids.
Welcome to Podketeers.
All right. Well, if there's a particular place in Frontierland that you enjoy, we'd love to hear what that place is for you, where you like to sit, where you like to just people watch, like I was talking about earlier. Or is there a particular meal that you like to have at Frontierland? Because there's a couple different things that you can get there. And I know the barbecue isn't there anymore. Let's leave that out of the conversation, because I think a lot of us will agree, we miss you, Big Thunder Barbecue.
I believe that technically the Riverbell Terrace that has barbecue now is technically part of Frontierland.
Yeah, it's not the same though.
I get it.
It's not the same because you're not getting all that food in that bucket.
Family style.
Yep, it's
that was part of the charm.
endless.
You get all the food in a feed bucket.
I never ate at Big Thunder Ranch.
What?
Oh my God.
I was always a solo traveler, so it didn't make any sense for me to go over there. I don't even know if they had individual meals.
Oh man,
it was all family style.
That's
I think
a good
so.
question.
And I didn't know.
I wish our paths would have crossed earlier.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we met in Big Thunder Ranch, remember? Yeah.
It was so funny because I think we were both there to meet another artist that was doing the pumpkin carving. And so we were just walking around, and I happened to see Gavin wearing, I think, the Podketeer shirt that was like the Beatles version of the logo with the kick drum. I think he recognized me, and then we just kind of started talking. And that was the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
We walked off onto a foggy airplane tarmac, and it was It was the greatest movie ever made.
It was. I was like, here's looking at you, kid.
Hilarious.
All right. So that, I think, is going to wrap it up for this week. That was awesome, dude. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I can't wait for
No problem.
next week so we can talk a little bit about Rainbow Ridge and talk about the mine train through Nature's Wonderland. It's okay. I can keep it together. I'll keep it together. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up for this episode. If you have any thoughts on anything that we talked about, again, join the conversation over on Facebook, Instagram, or on Twitter. We love to hear your thoughts. We'll share them in an upcoming episode. Again, if you are interested in helping us reach our goal of $1,000 for the Children's Hospital of Orange County, teamboatwillie.com is where you will find the links to either join the team and raise money for yourself or to just make a donation. Remember, I'll say it again, it sounds cliche, but yes, every single dollar counts. So to everybody that's had the opportunity to donate, or if you're considering donating, just make it $1. It'll certainly help out, and we'll appreciate every one of those dollars that comes in. So that's it. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep moving forward, and always remember to pass on the magic. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.
Made you look.